everybody, my name's Helen, and today I'm doing a book talk. And that book talk is for City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare, the 6th and final book of the Mortal Instruments. It's here. It's finally done. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm going to try this for the first time. I'm going to do like the non-spoiler kind of thing at the beginning and just talk about my feels. And then I'm going to move into like a spoiler section. And this video is probably going to be pretty long because I have a lot of feels about this book and a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. So we'll see how it goes. So for the non-spoiler part, basically I loved this book. This was amazing. It proved once again that Cassandra Clare does amazing endings to her series, and I thought that it was fabulous. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The only kind of word of caution that I do have is that if you're going to read this book, you should make sure you have read The Infernal Devices beforehand, because you won't be able to appreciate this book to the fullest without it, and this book is going to spoil some major things about Clockwork Princess that you might not want to be spoiled for, and that whole series is amazing. I actually think it's better than this one, so I really recommend that you check it out before you even think about picking up this book. Okay, that's it for the non-spoiler section. For those of you who haven't read the book or don't want to be spoiled for the book, goodbye, 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 bye. Are you gone? Now for the fun part. So, the very first thing we get in this book is a prologue, and the prologue introduces us to the cast for the Dark Artifices, which was awesome. We get to meet Emma Carstairs and Julian Blackthorne. We get to see them just kick some major butt together when Sebastian infiltrates the Los Angeles Institute. And they did an awesome job, and they work really well together, and their friendship is awesome. But they are so gonna regret being parabatai later. Like, why? Why would you do that? She starts noticing that he's attractive, and then she's like, oh hey, we should be parabatai so that I don't have to leave. Oh, that's gonna bite you in the ass later. Basically, because of this attack, right, all of the Shadowhunters are called back to Idris to kind of keep them safe. They want to stop any more attacks from happening. So when they evacuate the New York Institute, they leave Simon in New York. Like, why would you do that? He is being hunted by so many people, and you're leaving him in New York. No. And it only takes like 5 minutes of them being gone for an Darkin to come and knock on the door and try to kill him. And then he gets caught by the vampires, and Maureen throws him in a cage, dresses him up like a romance hero from a book, and just kind of likes to stare at him. And she has gone freaking insane. Like, watching her interact with Simon was one of the most unnerving things I have ever read, aside from Sebastian and the Sealy Queen. I can't even explain my feelings about Sebastian and the Sealy Queen. It was so gross and so wrong, and the whole scene was like the most disturbing thing I've ever read in a book in my life. It was so wrong, and every time they would talk, it was like, no, stop it, please. I was watching Christine from Poland Bananas Books. I was watching her book talk on this earlier, and she brought up that they may or may not have had unprotected sex, like they didn't actually specify, and fairies can have children with Shadowhunters. So there's the potential of like a weird demon Shadowhunter fairy child coming up later, and that is terrifying and disturbing, and I don't want to think about that. Oh, so let's talk about the Praetor. What happened at the Praetor? Maya and Jordan, right, go to the Praetor to try and get help to find Simon. And they get there, and everybody's dead. And the building is burnt to the ground. And they find Praetor Scott in the dirt. It's person number 1, okay, Praetor Scott. But then when we think everything's done and they're gonna leave, no, Sebastian comes out of nowhere and stabs Jordan through the back. And he dies in Maya's arms, and Sebastian leaves Maya alive to deliver a message for him. It's so... oh, it's cruel. And so from like the beginning of the book up until this point, right? Jace has been trying to learn to control the heavenly fire, because the heavenly fire is coursing through his veins, and it's making, like, it's going strong. And Jordan was helping him with that in the beginning, with like some meditation stuff and whatever. He just kind of seems to start to get the hang of it. Like, he still has troubles with it, but he can focus it to different points. So instead of like burning Clary when he's kissing her, he can put it through his hands and scorch the side of a building and leave handprints. So when he's at the Citadel, which where he wasn't supposed to be, by the way, and he just is like kicking major ass. Like, he is slaughtering the Undarked. He is just taking them down one by one, not even giving them a second glance. And he's kind of doing it with the fire. He's not like burning them, but he's using it to bring himself some strength, right? And then Sebastian like stabs him in the shoulder and he starts bleeding fire. It burns Sebastian, and that's kind of how they know for sure that the heavenly fire is going to be able to hurt him. That's kind of how they find that out. There's Zachariah, who is the only silent brother that's there, and let's be honest, he's there for obvious reasons. Draws a rune on his hand and then goes to touch Jace's shoulder where the fire is like bleeding, and it sets him on fire. And it doesn't just like set part of him on fire, like it completely engulfs him in flames. And the next time we see Zachariah, he is human again. He is Jem. And I cried. Jem was my baby in the Infernal Devices, and seeing him be human again and finally getting an explanation for how it happened was so perfect, because my only real issue with the end of Clockwork Princess was that Jem became human again. But Cassandra Clare had written earlier in that very book that once you were a silent brother, you couldn't stop being a silent brother. Like, what is this continuity error? But she fixed it, and she made it legit, and she made it plausible, and she made it work with the storyline, and it just, oh, it made me so happy. And let's also talk about this dinner at the Fairfolk house in Idris. All of the Downworld reps go to the house of Meliorn and have dinner. Now, we as the readers know this is not a good idea, because they are aligned with Sebastian, but we have to watch them do it. They end up getting kidnapped, and they're sent to Edom, which is one of the demon dimensions, and they're sent to Sebastian, and he holds them hostage in hopes that the Clave will send him Jace and Clary. Sebastian and his obsession with them is just, let's not even go there. One of the things that made me really happy about this book, though, was Alec, because Alec has been one of my favorite characters for a long time. I loved that he kind of had this growth in himself. Like, he went from thinking he was in love with Jace to kind of realizing that he wasn't, and finding a soulmate in Magnus. And his whole journey there is what made me love him. But in this book, he has the best sense of sarcasm, and he's so funny in it. "Simon, you're blushing," observed Jace, "and you're a vampire and almost never blush, so this better be really juicy and weird. Were bicycles involved in some kinky way? Vacuum cleaners? Umbrellas?" "Big umbrellas, or the little kind you get with your drinks?" Alec asked. Alec begins to really stand up for himself and come out of his shell in this book, and he says a lot of things that make a lot of sense. He says a lot of things to Jace that are really personal, and he actually kind of gets right into the battles. And he had this thing here that he says to Jace, and it is one of my favorite quotes in this book. "I will not hang back here at Alicante while Magnus is in danger. Go without me, and you disrespect our Parabatai oaths. You disrespect me as a Shadowhunter, and you disrespect the fact that this is my battle too." One of the things that I really, really loved in this book, and it gave me feels, and I don't know why it gave me the feels that it did, but it did, was when Jace, Clary, Alec, Izzy, and Simon are about to go through the pathway into Edom. They're about to go through, and they all kind of look at it, and they each have their own little thing that they say, and then they all take each other's hands and go through together holding hands. And I don't know why this had the effect on me that it did, but it made me so happy to read, to hear that, like, to see that these characters were depending on each other and not just running in blindly as individuals, but were attacking it as a team. And as soon as they enter the realm, there's this demon that kind of guards the entrance, and it fills their head with all their desires, right? And I thought that these desires were really interesting to see. It provided us with some great insight to these characters and how they think. The first one we get is Clary. And Clary sees Luke and Jocelyn married at a mansion in Idris. Jonathan is a regular human boy, and he's a protective older brother who likes to joke with her. And Valentine was a hero instead of a villain, and because of that, when Luke and Jocelyn had another baby, they named her Valentina after him. And she's about to get married to Jace. And it shatters when she realizes that she can't remember Jace proposing to her. And then we get to see Simon, and Simon's is kind of, we kind of expect it. He's like a famous musician. He still can't believe that but then we have these two little things that happen. We have Clary being his girlfriend, which was a surprise, I'm gonna be honest. And when Clary says I love you to him, he says I love you to Isabel, and that was what shattered the scene. But a little bit before that, there's this thing of flowers on the table, and it has a note from his mother. And his mother tells him that she is proud and that she loves him. I had a little moment, and and right after Simon, we get Isabel's. And Isabel's is actually really similar. It's her birthday, she's just turning 22. She came home from shopping, and Simon is there. He gives her a kiss, and he tells her that he has a surprise for her and leads her into the kitchen, and it's a surprise birthday party, and everybody's there, including Max. But the thing that shatters her dream is that when she is 22, Max should be 15, but he is stuck at 9 years old. And almost immediately afterwards, we get Alec. Alex was heartbreaking. His sort of dream, he is at the Accords Hall. He has just defeated Sebastian. He saved Max, he saved Jace, and his father is giving a speech about how proud he is of Alec, how he's the bravest warrior he's ever known, and how he's so proud to call him his son. And that he's happy for him because he and Magnus have just gotten engaged. The fact that Alec's biggest desire is to have his father be proud of him and accept the fact that he is gay was just heartbreaking, and it made me feel all of the feels for Alec, and I already feel all the feels for him, so it was just... But when they find Jace, he's already kind of broken out of his dream, and they don't really, he won't tell them what it is, and we find out a lot later that it was him sitting on the throne next to Sebastian ruling hell. And I was surprised to hear that, to be honest. I don't know if you guys were, but I knew it was going to be something that he wasn't proud of. He was scared of it because of the way he was described from when they found him. But I wasn't expecting it to be him ruling hell with Sebastian. And once we're in the demon realm, we get even more of this new kind of sass that Alec seems to have about himself. I did not make a pie for 3 reasons. 1, because I do not have any pie ingredients. 2, because I don't actually know how to make pie. And 3, because I am not your bitch. But while we're also in this realm, we have Jace lose control and become a pillar of fire. Because he cannot control the heavenly fire, this demon is able to taunt him until it's just this big pillar of flames, and Jace is stuck in the middle of it and he can't do anything. It's a very key part in the story, actually, when you think about it, because it is what allows Clary to figure out the rune of the hilt of the sword and extract the heavenly fire and put it into Hiosfros. If that didn't happen, then they wouldn't have been able to really beat Sebastian unless Jace had figured out how to control the heavenly fire, and we wouldn't have gotten the sex scene. Which, let's be honest, it took 6 books, it took frickin' long enough, it needed to happen. Although, again, as Christine pointed out, the fact that Jace brought a condom into hell expecting that they were going to get it on is hilarious. We also have 3 points really kind of close together, like they're almost in succession. of 3 characters nearly dying. We have this scene with Jocelyn where she and Sebastian are talking and she tries to kill Sebastian, which we all know is a terrible idea, and seems like it should end in her death, but he can't kill her because he knows that Clary will be mad at him. And right after that, because of Jace being an idiot and trying to get the Skeptor from the statue, there are all these demons, and one of them bites Izzy, and she nearly dies, but Simon saves her. And immediately after that, Magnus is nearly killed by Raphael, and in that point, Raphael is killed. And while all of this is going on, Maya is busy being a freaking badass back in New York, saving Bat's life, killing Rufus, and killing Maureen. So, I want to talk about Sebastian's death for a minute, because the whole reason for his death is him giving Clary so many chances, and he does it again. And this time he's like, well, you have to prove your loyalty to me, you have to kiss me like you love me. And she plays along with it so well. I was so distraught when I was reading this part. And then suddenly she whips out the sword from her belt and just like stabs him in the chest. And he's all like, you can't kill me. And when he goes to touch the hilt, it burns, and he is engulfed in heavenly fire. Instead of Sebastian just dying, Jonathan rises from his ashes and just is lying there dying. And it was heartbreaking. I don't like Sebastian at all. He is one of the few villains that I absolutely just despise. And I just hated him. I wanted him to die. But when Jonathan kind of came up, and it was the boy who could have been, it was the boy that Jocelyn could have had, seeing what could have been destroyed me. So after all of this happens, right, we kind of know that Magnus is going to have to call his dad. Like, it was hinted at earlier. And so he summons his father. And I love that the summoning spell is like a demon inversion of the Lord's Prayer. But then we find out that his father is Asmodeus. He's one of the friggin' 9 princes of hell. And Asmodeus says that he will help them, but he needs Magnus's immortality. And at first it was like, okay, this is perfect, because he can become mortal and live and die with Alec. They can have a healthy, happy life. Magnus has to point out that if his immortality is taken, he will die because all 400 years of his life are going to pile onto him at once. So then Simon decides that he's going to step up to the plate. And he's like, oh hey, well I'm immortal and I'm only 17, so if you take my immortality, I can just live a normal life. And then Isabel has to open her mouth and point out that he is undead, so if his immortality is taken, he will be a corpse. And Asmodeus says like, oh no problem, I can start your heart too, but I need your memories to do that. And he takes all of Simon's memories of Clary and the Shadow World, and it was so devastating, because it was watching an entire lifetime of friendship be ripped apart. But the part that kind of solidified how terrible this was during the epilogue, when Clary goes to see him at the school, and he really doesn't remember her at all. And the only inkling that it shows that he remembers anything at all is the band name, and the band name is the Mortal Instruments. And I'm not gonna lie, I laughed my ass off at that. And then Isabel looks at Magnus and is like, hey, you said if he remembers anything at all. And so they agree to go and talk to Simon. And I thought it was going to be like a, see if we can get his memories back kind of deal. But no! Simon is going to ascend! In the epilogue, we finally got Luke and Jocelyn's wedding, which, you know, only took 3 books, so no big deal. But I was so happy that they finally got that, and Magnus and Alec ended up back together, which was good because they needed to be endgame, don't tell me anything else. I ship them so hard. In this scene, we also kind of get Tessa and Clary, we get to see them interact and talk, and that was really cool. And the whole epilogue to this book was just awesome. It did a great job at setting up for TDA. I'm really excited for TDA to come out next fall. So even though this video was ridiculously long, that is it. Those are all my thoughts and discussion topics and things for City of Heavenly Fire. Let me know what you thought about this book and what you thought about this kind of video, because I might do more of them in the future. Leave your comments and things down below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you soon with a new video.